Good afternoon, everyone. The meeting for the Assembly Committee on Growth and Infrastructure will now come to order. Would the Committee Secretary please call the roll?
Assemblywoman Brown May.
Here.
Assemblyman Ellison.
Present.
Assemblyman Levitt.
Here.
Assemblyman Miller.
Here.
Assemblywoman Peters.
Here.
Assemblyman Roberts.
Here.
Assemblywoman Summers Armstrong. Assemblyman Watts.
Here.
Assemblyman Wheeler.
Here.
Assemblyman Yeager.
Here.
Chairman Romoreno.
And I am here. If you could show Assemblywoman Summers Armstrong absent excuse, that would be great. I'd like to welcome everyone to today's meeting for the Assembly Committee on Growth and Infrastructure. We will be hearing two bills and a work session. And for those of you that have been watching us, you know that these meetings are virtual. The building remains closed. However, you can have comments, public comments after the meeting, at the end during public comment. I encourage you to submit your public comment to us in writing. We can take those comments up to 48 hours after this meeting. For committee members, please leave your cameras on and turn all your electrical devices off. It helps us to keep quorum having your cameras on, and it helps with the minutes to keep the noise down by having your electronic devices off. We are going to go out of order. We will start today's meeting with our work session, and then we will go into our bill hearings, hearing AB 188 first, and then AJR 7. So I would ask our policy analyst to start with our work session, and we'll start with Assembly Bill 12.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Assembly Bill 12 revises provisions relating to the Department of Transportation. The bill was first heard in this committee on February 25th, 2021, where it was presented by the Nevada Department of Transportation. The measure changes the minimum qualifications for Deputy Director of the Department of Transportation to include at least 2 years of administrative experience as either an assistant director or the chief engineer within the department, or 15 years of experience in engineering or project management. The bill also moves the position of chief engineer from classified to unclassified state service. There have been no amendments received on this measure. There are 2 fiscal notes that have been received from the Department of Transportation and the Division of Human Resource Management of the Department of Administration. Both fiscal notes show no fiscal impact. Thank you.
Thank you. So members, I'll entertain a motion from the committee for due pass.
So moved. Assemblyman Watts.
I have a first from Assemblyman Watts. May I get a second?
Second, Assemblywoman Peters.
Thank you, Assemblywoman Peters. There's been a first and a second. Any discussion on the motion? Okay, seeing none, I will ask our committee secretary to call a roll call vote.
Assemblywoman Brown May.
Yes.
Assemblyman Ellison.
Yes.
Assemblyman Levitt.
Yes.
Assemblyman Miller.
Yes.
Assemblywoman Peters.
Yes.
Assemblyman Roberts.
Yes.
Assemblywoman Summers Armstrong. Assemblyman Watts.
Yes.
Assemblyman Wheeler.
Yes.
Assemblyman Yeager.
Yes.
Chairman Romoreno.
And I am a yes. That motion passes. And I will assign the floor statement to Assemblywoman Peters.
Thank you, Chair.
Next, we will open the work session on Assembly Bill 41, which revises provisions governing the operation of certain vehicles, and invite our committee policy analyst to discuss the measure.
Thank you, Chair, and I apologize to the committee secretary. I realize I didn't identify myself for the record previously. I am Katie Seaman, SIEMON, Committee Policy Analyst with the Research Division at the Legislative Council Bureau. Assembly Bill 41, as the chair mentioned, revises provisions governing the operation of certain vehicles. It was first presented to this committee on February 25th, again by the Department of Transportation. Assembly Bill 41 clarifies how vehicles and their loads are to be measured to determine whether they exceed the maximum height, length, and weight requirements permissible by law. The bill removes both the requirement that applications for permits to operate or move oversized vehicles, combinations of vehicles, special mobile equipment, manufactured or mobile homes, or similar structures or loads be submitted in writing, and the requirement that permits to move oversized manufactured or mobile homes or similar structures be issued by the Department of Transportation in writing. The measure authorizes the department, upon request, to waive the maximum width of 192 inches for special movement permits for manufactured or mobile homes, similar vehicles, and structures. There have been no amendments received on this measure, and there is no fiscal note associated. Thank you.
Thank you. And with that, members, I'll entertain a motion to do pass.
So moved, Madam Chair.
We have a first from Assemblyman Wheeler,
Second.
a second from Assemblyman Watts. Thank you. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, I will ask our committee secretary to do a roll call vote.
Assemblywoman Brown May,
Yes.
Assemblyman Ellison,
Yes.
Assemblyman Levitt,
Yes.
Assemblyman Miller,
Yes.
Assemblywoman Peters,
Yes.
Assemblyman Roberts,
Yes.
Assemblywoman Summers Armstrong, Assemblyman Watts,
Yes.
Assemblyman Wheeler,
Yes.
Assemblyman Yeager,
Yes.
Chairman Ro Moreno.
And I am a yes. That motion passes, and I will assign the floor statement on this one to Assemblywoman Brown May. All right, moving on to the next item on our work session, which is Assembly Bill 53. And will our policy analyst proceed with AB 53?
Thank you, Madam Chair. For the record, Katie Seaman, Policy Analyst. Assembly Bill 53 revises provisions relating to the establishment of certain systems of communication on highways. Again, this measure was heard first before this committee on February 25th, 2021, presented by the Department of Transportation. The measure changes the requirement that the Department of Transportation establish a system of public communication along highways for emergencies and driving conditions to a discretionary function. There have been no amendments received, and there is no fiscal note associated with this measure. Thank you.
Thank you. Members, I will entertain a motion to do pass.
I'll make a motion.
Assemblyman
Roberts.
I believe the motion was made by Assemblyman Roberts and second by Assemblyman Watts, correct?
Yes, thank you. Correct, Madam Chair.
Perfect. Any discussion on the motion? Okay, seeing none, I will ask our committee secretary to call the vote.
Assemblywoman Brown May,
Yes.
Assemblyman Ellison,
Yes.
Assemblyman Levitt,
Yes.
Assemblyman Miller,
Yes. Yes.
Assemblywoman Peters,
Yes.
Assemblyman Roberts,
Yes, sorry.
Assemblywoman Summers Armstrong, Assemblyman Watts,
Yes.
Assemblyman Wheeler,
Yes.
Assemblyman Yeager,
Yes.
Chairman Ro Moreno.
And I am a yes. The motion passes. Members, that brings us to the last item on our work session. That's Assembly Bill 123. And if our committee policy analyst will explain that bill to us. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. For the record, Katie Seaman, Committee Policy Analyst. Assembly Bill 123 revises provisions governing special license plates indicating support for the Vegas Golden Knights hockey team. The measure was first heard before this committee on March 2nd, 2021, where it was presented by Assembly members Havergy and Yeager, and also members of the Vegas Golden Knights Association. The measure imposes an additional $10 fee for the issuance and renewal of a special license plate in support of the Vegas Golden Knights franchise of the National Hockey League, which will be deposited with the state treasurer for credit to the state general fund. On a quarterly basis, the state treasurer is required to distribute the additional fees to the Vegas Golden Knights Foundation to assist with its work supporting nonprofit and charitable organizations. There have been no amendments received for this measure. This measure requires a 2/3 majority vote. There have been 2 fiscal notes received. The Office of the State Treasurer has determined that there is no fiscal impact associated, and the multi-year estimates provided by the Office of Project Management within the Department of Motor Vehicles are attached for reference. Thank you.
Thank you. And before I go to ask for a motion on AB 123, I would like to go back. I forgot to sign the floor statement for AB 53, and I'd like to assign that to Assemblyman Roberts. Forgive me, Madam Secretary, for that. So, members, I would entertain a motion to do pass Assembly Bill 123.
So moved. Steve Yeager.
I have a first from Assemblyman Yeager. Can I get a second?
Assemblyman Watts.
A second from Assemblyman Watts. Any discussion?
Yeah, I have one, Madam Chair.
Go ahead, Assemblyman Ellison.
Madam Chair, I thought that they removed the 2/3 vote off this because it actually, the charge would go to the individuals using it, not the state. Am I wrong?
Yes,
Maybe
according to,
Wheeler, maybe Assemblyman Wheeler can talk on that because he's the one who brought that up. And that's in my notes.
I believe the day of the hearing, our legal was not on, but the legal did make decision on it. It is a 2/3 vote because of the way the language in the bill is. So there wasn't anything in the hearing that said that the 2/3 would come off. It is still a 2/3 bill.
Yeah, Madam Chair, may I speak?
You sure can.
Hey, thank you, Madam Chair. Checked into it a little farther, and it remains a 2/3 vote because there is a slight increase in revenue. But since the license plate and the fees to it are voluntary, no one has to do it, then it's not like a tax pledge violation or anything like that. It's just the way the language in the bill is.
Did that answer your question?
Yes, Madam, it did.
Okay. Any other discussion on the motion? All right, seeing none, I will ask our committee secretary to call the vote.
Assemblywoman Brown May,
Yes.
Assemblyman Ellison,
Yes.
Assemblyman Levitt,
Yes.
Assemblyman Miller,
Yes.
Assemblywoman Peters,
Yes.
Assemblyman Roberts,
Yes.
Assemblywoman Summers Armstrong, Assemblyman Watts,
Yes.
Assemblyman Wheeler,
Yes.
Assemblyman Yeager,
Yes.
Chairman Ro Moreno.
And I am a yes. That motion passes with a unanimous vote. I will assign the floor statement to Assemblywoman Hadigi. Thank you, committee. That will close our work session and we will move on to our bill hearings. The first measure we'll hear today is Assembly Bill 188, and I will be presenting that bill along with Assemblywoman Brown May. So good afternoon to my fellow committee members. And for the record, I am Assemblywoman Danielle Monroe Moreno, representing Assembly District 1, which is in Clark County. I'm here to provide just some background on information for Assembly Bill 188 for your consideration before turning things over to Assemblywoman Brown May, who will finish with the introduction of the bill. For those familiar with the work of the Commission of Special License Plates during the interim, you may recognize AB 188 as one of the 5 recommendations made by the Commission as a result of our meetings together. Although the original recommendation turned all duties related to special license plates to the Department of Motor Vehicles, this bill retains the requirement that the legislative auditor compile and presents a report based on fiscal, financial information from charitable organizations pursuing special license plates. I'm introducing an amendment to this measure that makes a few changes designed to clarify each agency's role during the financial reporting process and streamlines the procedure itself. Rather than taxing the department with collecting financial information from charitable organizations and transferring this information to the legislative auditor, the amendment will require charitable organizations to transfer their financial information directly to the legislative auditor. The review of the financial information provided does not constitute an audit by definition, but it does produce an annual written report. As introduced, the measure requires the legislative auditor to present a financial report to the department by September 30th annually, only to require the department to then forward the report to either the director of the Legislative Council Bureau for transmittal to the legislature or the Legislative Commission by January 31st annually. The amendment removes this inefficiency by requiring the legislative auditor to present the report to both the director and the department by September 30th annually. I will stay on if you have any questions as we work through this bill hearing, but at this time, I would like to introduce Assemblywoman Brown May, and she will explain the provisions of Assembly Bill 188. Assemblywoman Brown May, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Chairman Moreno and members of the Committee on Growth and Infrastructure. Good afternoon. For the record, I am Assemblywoman Tracy Brown May, representing Assembly District 42, located in central Las Vegas and unincorporated Clark County, and I'm pleased to provide additional information related to Assembly Bill 188. As many of you may know, the state of Nevada permitted the use of special license plates in certain circumstances beginning in 1977. Assembly Bill 358 of the 2003 legislative session expanded the creation of special license plates for different organizations and created the Commission on Special License Plates. The Commission has met every interim since then, and its membership consists of 5 legislators and 3 members representing the Departments of Motor Vehicles, Tourism and Cultural Affairs, and Public Safety. The responsibility of the Commission is to approve or disapprove applications for the design, preparation, and issuance of special license plates that are submitted to the Department of Motor Vehicles. The application process is according to the process described in Chapter 482 of the Nevada Revised Statutes and the corresponding regulations. Additionally, the Commission has met to make certain determinations relating to charitable organizations receiving fees from special license plates, to notify charitable organizations that have failed to comply with certain requirements, and to make additional actions when organizations have not taken corrective action following notification from the Commission. Special license plates have remained a resourceful way for charitable organizations to raise revenue to support their respective causes while covering the production costs of special license plates, funding technological upgrades at the department, and providing additional revenue to the state highway fund. Nothing in Assembly Bill 188 is intended to disrupt or alter the ability of the organizations to apply for special license plates. And additionally, there are no new requirements regarding how special license plates are issued. There are no revisions to the standard for applications. Special license plates and the entities requesting a special plate will continue to have the same requirements as under existing law and regulation, and will continue to be processed chronologically by the department. This measure retains the existing application process for charitable organization and requires the Department of Motor Vehicles to hold public meetings to review, approve, or disapprove the applications. The department may also notice or take action against charitable organizations that do not meet certain program requirements within existing law. And finally, the measure abolishes the Commission on Special License Plates due to its redundancy. Prior to becoming a member of the Assembly, I had the good fortune of representing a nonprofit organization that applied for a special license plate, and I had the pleasure of presenting this request to the Commission. The application itself was filed 5 years prior to the organization receiving authorization to present, and it included a number of requirements to be met to qualify. There's a lengthy application process and a required bond to be posted. The process to acquire a special plate is detailed, and it requires multiple reviews by professionals to ensure safety standards and visibility requirements are met prior to a plate going into production. Now, as stated, this bill recommends that the Commission itself be abolished in an effort to streamline and reduce redundancy. As you heard Assemblywoman Monroe Moreno mention, the legislative auditor will retain the existing requirement to examine the financial records of each charitable organization receiving a special license plate fee and provide an annual report to the legislature. As she stated, as introduced, this bill requires some back and forth between charitable organizations, the department, and the legislative auditor. A future amendment, as she discussed, will streamline the financial reporting process for all parties involved, and it will not fundamentally change the existing process. Through the diligent efforts of various members of the Commission over the past 18 years, Nevada has developed and refined a process for application, review, approval, and issuance of special license plates that provides for accountability and the effective oversight of the program, fully transferring approval and oversight responsibilities for special license plates to the department, while requiring transparency through public meetings and financial reporting, will ensure that the process remains fair and equitable for all applicants, and it eliminates duplication of efforts between two branches of government. I urge the committee's support of Assembly Bill 188 and will remain available for questions from members, along with Chairman Monroe Moreno. We also have available two folks from the Department of Motor Vehicles. Our Administrator, April Sanborn, is available to answer technical questions regarding the bill, as well as DMV Legislative Liaison, Sean Sever. Thank you. We're happy to talk through the bill if you'd like, or can entertain questions, whatever you prefer.
Thank you so much, members. That will end our presentation on Assembly Bill 188. And I will open it up for questions from members. I believe we have one member with a question, which will be Assemblyman Allison.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. And, as a supporter of DMV, I just always wondered that it seemed like the committee, interim committee that looked at the special license plates did a really good job. And they were more in tune with the constituents that asked for the plates. So is there any real reason that I don't see that why this should be changed? I think I like what you're doing, but I just seem to think that it worked really good and a lot better the way it was. So could you answer that, Madam Chair?
Sure. I have had the opportunity, the pleasure, or the displeasure on some days to serve on the interim committee for special license plate for the last two sessions, and this previous session interim, I chaired the committee. I found, as other members of the committee, that the duties of the interim committee were in some ways repetitive and duplicative of what the work of DMV. There was contention for one organization that we did have to remove their privilege of having a special license plate. However, as we look at doing things more efficiently, being more fiscally responsible and still being in tune with the needs, concerns, and requests of our constituents, it was in the interest of the committee that it would be best to turn over the day-to-day operations that would happen for special license plate back to the DMV, with the legislature retaining the quote-unquote audit part of the job. And it also, I think, puts everyone more on a level playing field, so that legislators who may have a special interest in one organization or another doesn't use that influence to influence the process.
Madam Chair, may I follow up?
Yes.
Thank you. Responding to Mr. Assemblyman Allison's question, for having had the opportunity to present on behalf of a nonprofit organization requesting a special license plate, the process itself is really laid out within the regulations. And so a nonprofit must follow all of the regulations as has been determined and go through the Department of Motor Vehicles. Because there's a department involved, it was easy to move through the process relatively quickly, but then there had to be this stopgap as we waited for an interim committee to meet to consider special license plates. There's only a certain number of plates that are allowed according to regulation. And so there was a period of time then that we just had to wait for our turn in the queue. I think that would be the case irrespective of whether a legislative body was overseeing that or whether it went to the Department of Motor Vehicles. But primarily, it was just one extra meeting that we needed to wait to happen that could have been handled through a public hearing at the Department of Motor Vehicles.
Follow up, Madam Chair.
This is Vice Chair Watts. I'll be stepping in to run the rest of the hearing. Go ahead. You can follow up briefly, Mr. Ellison.
Thank you. And I really like what my colleague had to say. The thing of it is I really believe that the DMV is got a lot on their plate. They cover the whole state on so many issues, and I can't thank them enough for what they've done. I just hate to put another burden back on them, and I know that they'd have to still hold hearings and stuff like this. They still take a lot of time on their plate when they're really busy now, and I hope they're here to talk about it. But I thank you, and I totally see where you're coming from, and I appreciate your comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any other questions from members?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead, Assemblyman Roberts.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Just a quick question. I know we're doing away with the commission pretty much, and DMV was already doing a considerable amount of work to prepare for those commission meetings as you testified. Is this going to result in a cost savings by eliminating the interim commission? Anybody?
Vice Chair Sean Sever from the DMV, if I may. We don't anticipate any additional cost savings.
So, I mean, not necessarily from the DMV, but from the ledge side, right? So we're repaying legislators and staff to hold that commission hearings.
Mr. Vice Chair, if I may.
Yes, go ahead, Chair.
This is Assemblywoman Danielle Monroe Moreno, and yes, there would be a considerable savings. We would not have to assign staff from LCB or assign legislators to participate in this interim committee. And I will also remind the committee that the duties of the commission only provides recommendations on special license plate. The DMV has and will maintain the final authority on any plate that's produced.
Thank you. Thank you for the answer. In one follow-up, Vice Chair, if staff rarely has that dollar amount available on what we spent on that in previous sessions, that would be helpful when we get to a work session. Thank you.
Thank you. With that, I believe we have a question from Assemblyman Wheeler.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a little bit of a follow-up there before my question. The staff is what gets paid, but the legislators do not get paid. One of the very few committees where the legislators don't get paid. But anyway, to my question, what kind of a follow-up on Mr. Ellison's. One of the things, I was chairman of this committee in one session, one interim session, and have been on it every session since, except the last one. And I'm kind of wondering, as the chairwoman said, there was an instance once where we looked into someone, we ended up, after years of investigation, of revoking that privilege. And how is the DMV going to handle complaints? And will they have to bring that before the legislature before revoking a privilege, as we did with the interim committee? Anybody?
Vice Chair Sean Sever from the DMV. Do you want to answer that question?
Yes, go ahead, Mr. Sever.
All right, I do have April Sanborn here that can answer that one for us, so she'll step in.
Good afternoon, April Sanborn, Administrator for the Department of Motor Vehicles, for the record. So can you please repeat that question for me, Assemblyman Wheeler?
Oh, thank you, Ms. Sanborn. Nope. The interim committee started the procedure to revoke a license plate, basically. I shouldn't say the plate, but the money coming into that plate. And I'm wondering what the procedure is going to be if the DMV receives a complaint, or the legislature receives a complaint and sends it on to you. What's your procedure going to be as far as hearings, et cetera, in that type of situation, to mirror what we did over 4 or 5 years?
Thank you for the question. April Sanborn, Administrator of DMV, for the record. So currently right now, SB 60 that the department has submitted has language in there that is designed to give us some teeth to be able to take action when we receive complaints or we have an organization that is not meeting their legislative requirements. In the current framework that we don't have any authority to be able to take action. So SB 60 is going to be really vital for us. And we're hoping that does get passed so that we can get the teeth to be able to take action on an organization. So as far as what that process is right now today, we don't currently have anything. But moving forward, obviously we need the ability to work with our administrative law process, our administrative hearing process, to be able to work through these issues that we have with any organization in the future.
Okay, so this is basically just the first step of giving you guys more and more power, right?
April Sanborn, for the record, yes. And I'm sorry, I apologize. I'm being told it's actually AB 188, so I do apologize for that.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Are there any other questions from members of the committee? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and open it up to testimony. We'll begin with testimony in support. As a reminder, in order to provide testimony on the bills on the agenda today, you must register in advance on the legislative website. We will be limiting testimony to 2 minutes so that we can accommodate all speakers. And with that, I'll turn it over to Broadcast Production Services to see if we have anybody in the queue wishing to provide testimony in support on this bill.
Testify in support of Assembly Bill 188. Please press *9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, we have no callers in support at this time. Excuse me, Vice Chair.
Thank you. With that, we will move on to testimony in opposition of Assembly Bill 188.
Testify in opposition of Assembly Bill 188. Please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Vice Chair, it appears we have no callers in opposition of Assembly Bill 188.
Thank you. And finally, we'll move on to testimony in the neutral position on Assembly Bill 188.
Testify in the neutral position on Assembly Bill 188. Please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Caller with the last 3 digits of 800. Please press star 6 to unmute. Please slowly spell and state your name for the record. You will have 2 minutes and may begin.
Good afternoon, Vice Chair Watts. For the record, Daniel Crossman, Legislative Auditor, LCB Audit Division. Testifying in the neutral position today on AB 188, and just wanted to provide a couple brief remarks. Under the new process defined by this legislation, as noted, the legislative auditor retains its responsibility to perform a review of financial information required to be submitted by certain special license plate charitable organizations. We're happy to continue the work that we've done in this area historically. Under the changes in this bill, as noted also, the legislative auditor's annual report of the results of our review will now be submitted directly to the Department of Motor Vehicles as well as to the legislature. As also mentioned in the presentation, the proposed amendments to the bill will help clarify that process as it relates to the audit division to help ensure the process of obtaining, reviewing, and reporting on the financial information from the special license plate organizations is as efficient as possible. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your testimony, Mr. Crossman. Does anybody have any questions for our the head of the audit division? Seeing none, we'll move on to anybody else wishing to testify in neutral on Assembly Bill 188.
If you are just joining us, we are currently taking neutral testimony on Assembly Bill 188. Please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue if you wish to testify in the neutral position. Vice Chair, we have no further callers in the neutral position.
Thank you very much, Broadcast Production Services. With that, we'll turn it back over to the presenters of the bill if they have any closing statements they wish to make.
Thank you, Vice Chair Watts. This is Assemblywoman Danielle Monroe Moreno. And in response, before I close, to Assemblyman Wheeler's question, this committee heard Assembly Bill 150 earlier in the session, and it's scheduled for work session coming up soon. And it addresses the punitive changes that would be needed for DMV for actions concerning special license plates. And with that, I would just urge this committee's support for Assembly Bill 188.
Thank you very much. With that, we will close the hearing on Assembly Bill 188. And I believe I'll turn the gavel back over to the chair.
Thank you, Vice Chair Watts. And with that, we will move to the last item of business on our agenda for today, which is the hearing for AJR 7. And I believe Assemblywoman Bilbray Axelrod is in our virtual room. The floor is yours, Assemblywoman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. For the record, I'm Assemblywoman Shannon Bilbray Axelrod, representing Assembly District 34 within Clark County. I'm here to present Assembly Joint Resolution 7 for your consideration. A little background. According to the Nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office, revenues to the Federal Highway Trust Fund have fallen short of federal spending on highways for more than a decade. If excise taxes on fuel were to continue at the current rate, and if funding for the highway and transit programs were to increase annually at the same rate of inflation, by 2030, total accumulated budget shortfalls for the Highway Trust Fund alone would total $189 billion nationally. And that's just the Highway Fund. This doesn't take into account the fact that the term infrastructure properly refers to airports, transit, bridges, dams, energy, infrastructure, solid waste, wastewater treatment plants, and the like. The American Society of Civil Engineers, commonly known as ASCE, reviews and evaluates the infrastructure of each state and the United States as a whole on an annual basis, providing a report card intended to give a snapshot evaluation of a state's infrastructure. In 2021, the infrastructure report card, which was based on the 2018 data, the ASCE gave America's infrastructure a C-. Nevada got an actual C, which was better, a modest improvement from its prior rating of a C- in 2014. The ASCE estimates that the failure to close the national infrastructure funding gap will cost more than $10 trillion in gross domestic product, more than 3 million jobs, and approximately 2.4 trillion in exports if we do not have significantly addressed the issue by the year 2039. Faced differently, this lack of investment on infrastructure today will cost the American household $3,300 per year, or $63 a week by 2039. In Nevada, the state is facing the following costs for estimates of rehabilitation and future maintenance of various infrastructure. For critical dams, $40 million. For drinking water infrastructure, over $5 billion over the next 20 years. And for a backlog of road and bridge repairs, which are mostly in rural Nevada, nearly $450 million. So what does this bill do? Assembly Joint Resolution 7 urges Congress of the United States to pass H.R. Resolution 6422 of the 116th Congress. This is more commonly known as the National Infrastructure Bank. This is a funding model that has been successfully employed 4 times in our nation's history, requiring a minimal initial appropriation, but is ultimately designed to be budget neutral. Let me say that again. It is designed to be budget neutral. Before I turn my time over to my co-presenters to further explain how the National Infrastructure Bank works and how it may benefit Nevada specifically, I'd like to note that back in the 2017 session, we had the passage of Assembly Bill 399, which created Nevada State Infrastructure Bank with the Department of Transportation. Under the governance board of directors, the Infrastructure Bank is charged with providing loans and other financial assistance to various units of state and local government for the development, construction, repair, and improvement, maintenance, decommissioning, operation, and ownership of certain transportation facilities and utility infrastructure. To date, nearly 35 other states have followed suit by implementing infrastructure banks of their own. Infrastructure banks remain a popular method for meeting long-term needs to close the infrastructure funding gap, and the National Infrastructure Bank may be able to accomplish the same goal. With the chair's permission, I would like to invite State Treasurer Zach Conine and Alfeka Matardi, who is a microeconomist from the National Coalition for Infrastructure Bank, to further explain the provisions of this measure in HR 6422. Then we'll be available to answer questions the committee may have. Thank you.
Good afternoon to you too, and welcome to our committee.
Thank you very much. My name is Alfeka Mutardi, and I am a macroeconomist. I worked for 25 years at the International Monetary Fund, and currently I'm calling you from Northern Virginia, working with the Coalition for a National Infrastructure Bank on this proposal, HR 6422, to create a national infrastructure bank. So what I'd like to just highlight, and the Assemblywoman did a great job already of explaining why we have these great needs to finance infrastructure nationwide. There's a very, very large gap. The American Society of Civil Engineers in their report card said that over the next 10 years, we need at least 6.1 trillion nationwide, of which maybe only 3.5 trillion is financed through the normal means, that is through the federal budget or through state and local budgets. And definitely 2.6 trillion is not funded. In addition, we also need other things outside of what they normally cover, including high-speed rail, affordable housing, and broadband everywhere. So this bank would actually finance all of those projects all across the country, and it's purposely made large enough to cover every single need in every single state. So in the state of Nevada, for example, out of the $5 trillion that will be made available, the state could qualify for up to $37 billion. This would cover all of the needs that the Assemblywoman has just identified for dams, drinking water, roads, bridges, and broadband everywhere. Of course, Nevada is a fast-growing state, so it has fast-growing infrastructure needs, and it's been particularly hit hard by the pandemic. You have larger than normal unemployment, and some of those jobs will come back. Some might not come back, but definitely we'll need retraining for folks for the jobs that are not coming back. And there's no reason why we can't hire and train all of the unemployed or marginally unemployed in your state to build your own infrastructure. So the way that this would work would be entities that own infrastructure would come in for a loan from the bank, and we would help you to build things in a central manner that would mobilize and build back better by building great integrated systems where trains leave off where roads begin, and there's more mass transit and affordable housing. We can build out schools. We can build out broadband everywhere, make sure that the state is completely covered with broadband connectivity and road connectivity to get all of your products to markets. And so we think that this will really, as a macroeconomist, I can tell you that what my eye is on is to have not only a program to finance infrastructure, but to grow the economy much faster than it has grown in the past. The last time we had such a bank, the Reconstruction Finance Corporation during the Great Depression, we had growth rates up at around 5.5% a year. We think we can replicate that again with this new bank. Higher growth rates need much more receipts coming in to your federal, state, and local coffers to assist you to repay back the loans. So that's sort of it in a nutshell. And I would really welcome any of your questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Treasurer Conine, did you have anything to add to the conversation?
Thank you, Chairwoman Monroe Moreno, and members of the esteemed Committee on Growth and Infrastructure. For the record, I'm Zach Conine, and I have the pleasure of serving as your Nevada State Treasurer. In his State of the State address, Governor Sisolak highlighted the importance of infrastructure as one of his priorities for Nevada's economic recovery from the COVID-19 pandemic. To put it simply, infrastructure creates real jobs for real people. For every $1 we spend on a public infrastructure project, anywhere from $3 to $7 is returned back into our economy and to disadvantaged communities in need of investment. We know that Nevada has some very acute needs when it comes to things like affordable housing, broadband connectivity, water and sewer projects, and school construction. In order to ensure that the state can provide the best services we can to all of our residents, we need the federal government to help provide us with the initial resources. We need to get these projects off the ground, putting Nevadans back to work. AJR 7 is an important first step in this process, as it will show the federal government that Nevada is ready and willing to meet the challenge and work to accelerate capital projects that will help us move our state forward. As the Biden administration works through its upcoming infrastructure package, we need to make sure we have all the right tools from a state perspective to identify potential projects, work collaboratively with local governments, and start building Nevada's economic recovery. To that end, we've been working diligently with the governor's office and other state agencies to stand up and reform the state infrastructure bank that Assemblywoman Bober-Axelrod mentioned, to streamline infrastructure projects throughout our state. A national infrastructure bank, similar to what's being proposed in AJR 7, would complement all of the efforts that are already underway at a state level to increase access to capital and provide much needed funding to areas of our state in desperate need of infrastructure investment. With that, I want to thank Assemblywoman Bober-Axelrod for bringing this legislation, and I'm happy to answer any questions from the committee.
Assemblywoman Bober-Axelrod, anything before we go to questions from the members?
No, I was just waiting for those questions to start coming. Thank you.
Members, do you have any questions for the presenters on AJR 7? Wow, we're going to let them get off that easy.
if I may, if you look at the who signed on as co-sponsor, it's a very bipartisan bill. So thank you very much for all those who did sign on to it, and thank you. If you have questions, I will make myself available offline as well. So thank you, Chair.
Thank you. And I thought I had signed on and I did not see my name there, so I would love to be added. I believe that Assemblywoman Brown May has a question.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Assemblywoman, for presenting this great bill. It's always great to talk about financing and how do we service debt and recover from this pandemic. I'm just curious to know, do you have any indication as to the support of HR 6422 on a national level?
Yes, we have a list of endorsements, which we can provide you with, but safe to say that we have resolutions introduced or passed in 20 legislatures across the country. And we've testified at quite a number of legislatures like us today. And really you see a huge, keen interest because every single state has huge unmet infrastructure needs and unemployment problems and marginal employment problems. And they see this as a great way to complement, complement the financing and get growth started in their own areas. So we can provide you with the list of endorsements.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. I am not seeing any other questions from any other members. Okay, so with that, I will ask our broadcast and production staff to see if we have any callers in the queue who are wishing to testify in support of AJR 7.
To testify in support of AJR 7, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Caller with the last 3 digits of 859. Please slowly spell and state your name for the record. You will have 2 minutes and may begin.
Good afternoon, committee. This is Janine Hansen, the state president of Nevada Families for Freedom. We are supporting AJR 7. AJR 7 provides a creative way to create jobs and revive the economy without tax dollars and debt. Right now, the U.S., in order to get money into the economy, borrows money from the private Federal Reserve Bank, which charges interest on the money. Then the U.S. Treasury prints the dollars, and the U.S. taxpayers pay the interest. This current process will never allow us to pay off the national debt. Starting with Alexander Hamilton and the first bank of the U.S., the United States used the creative power of the U.S. government and created credit for Americans, which cost the taxpayers nothing. Through this successful program, the federal government paid off the war debt for the War of Independence. Henry Clay, who served in the U.S. House of Representatives from 1806 to 1852 and ran for president, supported this idea, calling it the American system, which was to fund national production with sovereign or U.S. money and credit. President Abraham Lincoln printed the U.S. greenbacks through the U.S. Treasury, which helped to pay for the Civil War using these same ideas. This allowed him to avoid borrowing the money from British banks and paying them interest. President Franklin Roosevelt's Reconstruction Finance Corporation, 1932 through 1957, used these same principles to build infrastructure to help get the U.S. out of the Great Depression without using additional tax dollars or going into debt to the Federal Reserve Bank. A national infrastructure bank would put Americans back to work, creating many jobs in this devastated economy without tax dollars. We support AJR 7. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for your comments. Next caller.
Caller with the last 3 digits 287. Please press star 6 to unmute. Please slowly spell and state your name for the record. You will have 2 minutes and may begin.
My name is Stanley Forzik. I am, and that is spelled Forczek. I'm a retired executive from Amtrak. I spent over 30 years there. I also worked in the energy consulting business. I have my own firm. I am a board member of the Coalition for a National Infrastructure Bank, and I thoroughly support this bill in order to support the legislation HR 6422. I think this is a prime example of two organizations or two bills supporting the one thing that is needed in this country, and that is infrastructure. The infrastructure in this country is anywhere from 75 to 200 years old, and it's time to get it fixed to a point of good repair. I don't think the time is right to think about money. There is no money that's out there. The appropriations process is fairly clear. Unless you tax the people, you're not going to get any money. So the only way around it is a model of a national infrastructure bank. So let's not think about the money. Let's think about the value that is put into place by fixing up the infrastructure throughout the United States, including Nevada. The value is important. We didn't fix our infrastructure for the last 60 years. We missed fixing it for the 21st century. We need to get ready for the 22nd century. So I urge all of you, all committee members, to approve this resolution in order that we can get a good starting point to move forward, build our transportation system, build our water systems, take care of broadband, and do everything that's needed to bring infrastructure up to a point of good repair. Thank you so much for the time.
Thank you so much for your comments. BPS, do we have any other callers wishing to testify and support?
Yes, Madam Chair. Caller with the last three digits of 105. Please press *6 to unmute. Please slowly spell and state your name for the record. You will have 2 minutes and may begin.
Good afternoon. My name is Lynn Chapman, LYNNCHAPMAN. I'm the state treasurer of the Independent American Party. Our infrastructure is in dire need of help. And I just finished reading an article of our nation's terrible infrastructure. And in the article, our infrastructure was described as third world and in desperate need of upgrading. You know, our roads are not the only part that we have to worry about. We have to worry about power and water. And that made me think about the terrible winter storm that in early February hit the nation. And it left at least 12 people dead. And there was a lot of problems in Texas where the temperature went below zero. And it really put the elderly and the infants at very high risk. We need to find a way that won't hurt families, meaning high taxes, but actually to help fix the infrastructure problem. And we should go forward with whatever we can. I would like to add that I would hope that American companies and American workers would be used in the fixing of our infrastructures and not foreign companies and foreign workers. This is one way to help put Americans back to work. And with that, we do support AJR 7. Thank you.
Thank you so much for calling in with your comments. Do we have any other callers in support?
Yes, Madam Chair. Caller with the last three digits of 292. Please press *6 to unmute. Please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You will have 2 minutes and may begin.
Hi, this is Rob Benner, ROBBENNER, with the Northern Nevada Building Trades. We think that the National Infrastructure Bank has the potential to rebuild American industry and create millions of new jobs with no new taxes and no new debt. Jobs like this will be essential for Nevada's economic recovery. Also, Bill Stanley from the Southern Nevada Building Trades could not be on this meeting. He's sitting in a dentist chair right now, but he wanted me to pass on his support for this resolution as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us and sharing your comments. Do we have any other callers in the queue?
Yes, Madam Chair. Caller with the last three digits of 922. Please press star 6 to unmute. Please slowly spell and state your name for the record. You will have 2 minutes and may begin.
Hello, for the record, my name is Ainsley Archibald, AINSLEE-ARCHIBALD, speaking on my own behalf. Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. The National Infrastructure Bank would lay the foundation, pun intended, for the Green New Deal. In the process of combating climate change, we can start creating millions of good jobs through initiatives like this one. Our country needs to get more comfortable spending money on infrastructure, especially green infrastructure, in order to build our way out of the twin crises of economic instability and environmental collapse. We need to start building mass transportation, renewable energy infrastructure, and sustainable architecture. In the next decade, the impacts of environmental breakdown will make it more and more necessary to take bold action to combat climate change. The National Infrastructure Bank is one way to start building the political will to do so. Also, I like trains. Please support AJR 7. Thank you.
Thank you. Next caller.
If you are just joining us, we are currently in support of AJR 7. Please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue to testify in support. Chair, we have no further callers in support of AJR 7.
Thank you. Do we have any callers wishing to provide testimony in opposition?
To testify in opposition of AJR 7, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, we have no callers in opposition.
Thank you. Do we have any callers wishing to provide testimony in neutral?
To testify in the neutral position for AJR 7, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Caller with the last three digits of 490, please press star 6 to unmute. Please slowly spell and state your name for the record. You will have 2 minutes and may begin.
My name is Cyrus Hojjati, Cyrus Hojjaty. I am neutral for this bill. We certainly do need a lot of infrastructure, great economic output. We need more public spaces, things like traffic circles, more repair of our utilities, a lot of other different things. Now, there are some concerns I've heard. They talk about affordable housing. Why not address the reason why prices of rent keeps going up? An issue that I have with infrastructure is I hope we don't see more of the failed projects like the California high-speed rail, which ended up wasting a lot of money and had to be canceled, because I fear that a lot of the funds could be used for wasteful government departments that don't actually go to the project itself. I really enjoy driving on the freeways around the Las Vegas Valley. They're in really fine shape, so I would be harsh to see them go in such disrepair. I think the major roadways really need help. They could use a lot of traffic light. I think we can invest in up-to-date technologies like Hyperloop. And here's the other concern I have. I'm very skeptical about having Wall Street and the World Bank and the IMF and the Federal Reserve involved in all this. There are a lot of crooks in there. I believe that they haven't learned their lesson in 2008. I think that there's another economic downturn that's coming along because real estate is overinflated. We saw what happened about 15 years ago. And I'm very concerned because our national debt is skyrocketing. And the problem is a lot of the money that gets spent, particularly in stimulus, doesn't actually go to the people, unlike other countries. It goes to the fat cats on top. So if there's any infrastructure bill, I hope it actually goes to real good quality infrastructure for the people and not just a handful of special interests and wasteful government departments. So it's time that we have plans, but they're for the average Joe and not the few that are pulling the strings. The reason why this may be the case.
Thank you so much, Mr. Hojjati, for your comments. Mr. Hojjati, I think we've gone past the neutral stance, so I want to thank you so much for calling in today for your comments and joining us. BPS, do we have any other callers in the queue?
Chair, we have no further callers at this time.
Thank you so much. Are there any final remarks from the presenters or questions from committee members?
I will just say thank you so much for hearing this bill, Madam Chair. Thank you for the diverse callers in support. Really appreciated that. Thank you to my co-presenters. And I just want to say that this infrastructure bank could really be a game changer for generations to come. I encourage your support, and I want to let you know that history has its eyes on you. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the presentation and the diverse callers joining us today. So with that, we will close the hearing on AJR 7. And members, that brings us up to the very last thing on our agenda for today, and that will be public comment. So we will move to the public comment portion, and I will ask our BPS staff if we have anyone in our public comment waiting room.
Testify with public comment. Please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Caller with the last 3 digits of 490, please press star 6 to unmute. Please slowly spell and state your name for the record. You will have 2 minutes and may begin.
My name is Cyrus Hojati, Cyrus Hojjaty. I just think that public infrastructure and public space is very important. I don't know about you, but I kind of think that Las Vegas is one of the most privatized society in the world. We hardly have any public spaces other than roads and a few parks. And in fact, a lot of places that are somehow shared spaces, like tot lots, mini parks, clubhouses, other things like that, are privately owned. A lot of places that typically are public are actually private. And I'm just hoping that people can be aware about this. I don't know why we live in such a society that everybody wants to be hiding from one another, living in guard-gated areas. This is really a sign that our society is really becoming dysfunctional, sinking. I think it's a symptom of income inequality. And I really think that when you guys drive down the neighborhood, I really think you guys should think about this, because this wasn't the case decades ago. So I don't know. What are your thoughts? Thank you.
Thank you so much for your comments. Do we have any other callers in the queue for public comment today?
Chair, the public comment line is open and working. However, we have no more callers at this time.
Thank you so much, BPS. So members, that will conclude today's meeting. I thank all of our presenters, committee members, and of course, our broadcast staff and the members of the public who were able to join us here virtually. Our next meeting for the Assembly Committee on Growth and Infrastructure will be on Tuesday, March 18th at 1:30 p.m., where we will have a work session. And with that, this meeting is adjourned, and I wish you all a wonderful day.